This story of Mr. Noisy. Mr. Noisy was a very, very noisy person indeed. For example, if Mr. Noisy was reading this story to you, he'd be shouting at the top of his voice, and the top of Mr. Noisy's voice is a very loud place. You can hear 100 miles away. For example, when most people sneeze, you can hear it in the next room, but achoo! When Mr. Noisy sneezes, you're in the next country. Now this story starts when Mr. Noisy was asleep in bed in his bedroom in his house, which is on top of a hill. He was snoring and as well. Well, imagine when Mr. Noisy snores, that is snore with hearing. Sounds like a Herb Alphabet's a snore. Then, Mr. Noisy alarm clock went off. Mr. Noisy's alarm clock sounds like no other alarm clock in the world. It sounds like a fire engine. Mr. Noisy woke up, and so did all the people who lived in Wobble Town, which is at the bottom of Mr. Noisy's hill. Later that day, Mr. Noisy decided that he had to go shopping. He went out of his house, shutting the door behind him. Bang! The door wobbled, the house wobbled, the whole hill wobbled. Wobble Town wobbled, even a bird flying high above wobbled. Then, Mr. Noisy walked down the hill. He walked into the baker's shop. Crash! Went the doors open. Bang! Went the doors shut. I'd like a loaf of bread, boomed Mr. Noisy to Mrs. Crumb, baker's wife. Mrs. Crumb trembled from the loaf. Then Mr. Noisy walked along the street to the butcher. Cluck, cluck, cluck. He walked into the butcher shop. Crash went the doors open. Bang went the doors shut. I'd like a piece of meat, boomed Mr. Noisy to Mr. Bacon the butcher. Mr. Bacon trembled and told the meat. Afterwards, Mrs. Crumb met Mr. Bacon straight. We really must do something about Mr. Noisy. Mr. Noisy, she said. Absolutely, replied Mr. Bacon. But what? I know, said Mrs. Crumb. She whispered into Mr. Bacon's ear. Mr. Bacon smiled a small smile, which turned to a broad grin. Mrs. Crumb said, I think you have the answer to this. The following day, Mr. Noisy again went shopping down to Wobble Town. He went into Mrs. Crumb's shop. I'd like a loaf of bread, he boomed. Sorry, what did you say? Mrs. Crumb, pretending not to hear. I'd like a loaf of bread. Mr. Noisy shouted. Sorry, said Mrs. Crumb, putting her hand to her ear. Can you speak up, please? I'd like a loaf of bread, roared Mr. Noisy. I can't hear you, replied Scrub. He gave and went out. Mr. Noisy went into Mr. Bacon's shop. I'd like a piece of meat, he boomed. Mr. Bacon pretended not to notice. I'd like a piece of meat, Mr. Noisy shouted. Did you say something, Mr. Bacon? I said I'd like a piece of meat, roared Mr. Noisy. Barn said Mr. Bacon. Mr. Noisy gave up and went home. Went to bed hungry. The day after Mr. Noisy tried again, he went into Mrs. Crumb's shop. I'd like a loaf of bread, he boomed. What? Mrs. Crumb. Mr. Noisy started shouting at the very top of his voice. I'd like a loaf of... And he stopped. He thought. He said quietly, I'd like a loaf of bread, please, Mrs. Crumb. Mrs. Crumb smiled certainly, she said. Then Mr. Noisy went into Mr. Bacon's shop. I'd like a piece of meat. He boomed. Did you say something, Mr. Bacon? Yes, I did, shouted Mr. Noisy. His top voice. I said I'd like a... He stopped. He thought. He said quietly, I'd like a piece of meat, please. Mr. Bacon said a pleasure. So, carrying his bread, meat, Mr. Noisy set off for home up the hill. Clop, clop, clop. And then he stopped. And then, do you know what he did? He tiptoed. A tiptoe is something Mr. Noisy never tried before. It was fun. Mr. Noisy arrived at his front door. His hand to open the door. He stopped. He stopped. And do you know what he did? He opened the door very quietly. He stepped inside. And then he shut the door very gently. Quietly and gently were two things Mr. Noisy had never tried before either. That was fun too. And you know something? And then so now, Mr. Noisy is in Noisy as he used to be. You know something else? He blow down or die, especially the crowd of Mr. Bacon. And do you know something else? Mr. Noisy has learned how to whisper.